Biju Patnaik is a legendary name in Odisha. People in Odisha actually revere him. He was a daredevil, he was a genuine politician who was desperate to improve the lot of the Odias in Odisha. And he's one of the rare politicians who used his personal money for the development of the state. And he would often go, bankrupt and would become a pauper doing that. Some local leaders and some state level leaders, they wanted to kill me politically. They wanted to destroy my political career. They were publicly saying that, after the 2024 elections, we will ensure that Sujit's political career is dead.
And what prompted the change? BJD से BJP पे आना.
I always admired PM Modi. When I was with BJD, many of my tweets, many of my public writings, I have hailed him. I would say he's doing great work for the country. I think he's the best Prime Minister India has ever had. Today, 1 million Tibetan children are in so-called boarding schools. These are actually concentration camps. They are separated. Children as young as 4 years old are separated from their parents, and they are forcibly put into these boarding schools where they are not allowed to speak in Tibetan.
Many people would complain that India is a rising power.
Right.
At least for its own interest, it should strike.
We have a Prime Minister who is admired across the globe, for whom it's always national interest first. Zero tolerance towards terrorism. We will negotiate. We will talk to all the countries in the world, but no one can dictate us. Our interest will be on the table, and today we are at the table. We are not on the menu.
Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to another episode at Tark by Arjun. I'm fortunate and feel privileged to be joined today by Sujit sir, who's spent, I've had the good fortune of interacting with him last year at a CAS event, and I have him in the office today where we're discussing a bunch of things. Of course, his journey, we're discussing Odisha, we're discussing politics and geopolitics today. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out the time, because I know you've done a lot of work. I know you're doing a lot of work. So your calendar is reasonably stacked.
Thank you, Arjun, for inviting me for this podcast. Really, it's an honor for me.
Thank you very much, sir. So, let's start with this. You've done a bunch of things in life. You've done Infosys, UNDP, you've been a lawyer, you studied at Harvard, you spent some time at Oxford also.
That's correct.
And now you're a parliamentarian, and you've championed causes which seem a little, not many people have touched those causes per se. And the state of this country that you come from, Odisha, that has its own journey. So we'll try to cover all of this thing in our conversation today. But was all of it, these different career paths or different options, different organizations, was it pre-planned? Was it by design that you structured your life this way? Or was there a moment of epiphany कि अपने को ये करना है?
Largely by design. See, I grew up in a place called Kalahandi in Odisha, and there were only two career options known to us in those days. So I was a student of science, so either engineering or medicine. I was not interested in medicine, so I chose engineering. After completing my engineering, I got into a very good IT company called Infosys. In those days, this was late 90s. Infosys was one of the most sought after companies in the country. So joined Infosys. But I realized...
Were you perhaps the first person to join Infosys in Odisha?
No, that may not be true. But certainly one of the first few. Because Infosys was very, very selective in hiring in those days. After working in Infosys for a couple of years, I realized the corporate life is not for me. And from an early age, I have always enjoyed working with people. I've always been a social person. I've always enjoyed helping out. So I decided to leave Infosys, quit Infosys, and join the social sector, the development sector. It was a huge decision in 2002, at the peak of the IT boom, and it was a very great career. But I knew my heart was not in it, so I left it to join a small NGO in Odisha.
This is how old were you?
I was 26.
26, and you took a call that you want to jump into development.
That's correct.
Leaving the computer space, which was actually seeing all the boom.
Yeah, and I had a great salary. My career trajectory in Infosys was really going great. So everyone was appalled actually that why is he doing this? It's career suicide. But I knew what I was doing. And then I joined a small NGO, and this NGO was being supported by UNDP. And then I ended up working for UNDP. I honestly didn't know what I was getting into, but I enjoyed this work so much. I ended up 2.5 years with UNDP with this project. Then I decided to go for higher studies. Initially, I thought I'll go for a PhD in development economics. But I didn't want to spend 4 or 5 years out of the real world. So I chose a 1-year MBA. And then I applied to 1-year MBA programs, Oxford, Cambridge, INSEAD, and also IIMs. So I got accepted to 5 out of the 6 IIMs. In those days, there were 6 IIMs. But luckily, I got accepted to the Oxford 1-year MBA program. Not only was I accepted, I got a full scholarship.
Wonderful,
so it was not a it was a no-brainer for me to join Side Business School at Oxford. From there, I went to work for the World Economic Forum in Geneva. Again, a great career. But I left that in 2008 and then moved to the US. And finally, I did a second master's in public administration and moved back to India. I relocated back in 2011 and got into politics shortly after that. So, in a way, this multidisciplinary career, which is very, very unusual, it's not very customary in India, but this has been my nature. I have always enjoyed doing different things, multiple things. And now that I'm in politics, I realize how much these different career paths are actually helping me in my current role as a policy maker.
Absolutely. There are many people who say that you just choose one thing and wahi ek kaam kariye.
Right.
But then the second option is, rather than choosing one thing, you've chosen multiple things and you've gone ahead and done bunch of them. And it's sort of, in some way, sounds like a politician made in labs. But as you said, tell us, it's by design. Where exactly do you come from? So Kalahandi, tell us a bit about the place, sir.
It's a district in western part of Odisha, fairly rural, and at one point of time it was very notorious for the wrong reasons, for starvation, death, for famine, for drought, for poverty, extreme poverty. 90% of the people are dependent on farming. So I grew up in a fairly well-to-do family. My father was a lawyer. He was a very successful lawyer. So, but growing up, you saw acute poverty in the district, and that actually had a huge impact on my psyche. But thankfully, today Kalahandi is transformed. It's actually a remarkable success story in development studies. Today, there is massive irrigation across this district, and in fact, we are the second largest contributor to the state's public distribution system. This is the same district which was unable to feed its people. Today, we are contributing to the state's PDS network, and it's one of the top 5 performers in Niti Aayog's aspirational district program in almost all the indicators and parameters. So I'm extremely happy and proud to state that Kalahandi is no longer what it used to be, and it's now a very a district which is on the growth path.
But why do you think, sir, that Azadi ke itne samay baad bhi a district like Kalahandi was falling so low on all developmental parameters? Like before you jumped into it, what is your observation? That Odisha ke andar aisa kyun tha? Because Odisha is one state which is rich in mineral reserves.
Yes. Couple of reasons. One is the land holding is very skewed. It's still a feudal society there. So very few people own bulk of the land. So most of the peasants didn't have the land holding needed to earn a decent livelihood. And very often the monsoon would fail and the agriculture was rain fed. So when the monsoon failed, people had no other option because there was virtually no irrigation. This was 30 years ago. I'm talking 30 years, 40 years ago. So people would have to migrate to Surat, to Hyderabad to earn a livelihood. And this would happen every 3-4 years. So there was a vicious cycle of poverty, underdevelopment, monsoon failure, and the resources with the government also was limited. Things started changing in the 90s, in the early 90s. So a massive irrigation project was initiated called Indravati Dam project. That literally changed the face of Kalahandi because you had a network of canals, crisscrossing the district, which brought in irrigation facilities to the farmers, to the land. And then of course connectivity. I must actually thank and compliment Prime Minister Vajpayee for his Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. So districts like Kalahandi are the biggest benefactors of this program because today you have connectivity to the remotest of hamlets and villages, which was actually a byproduct of the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, PMGSY.
Okay.
So all these factors combined to change the fate of Kalahandi.
So you made a few points about which pertain to the historicity of Kalahandi
Yes.
and Odisha. You've spoken about how it was 4 decades back. Let's take it 10 decades back. Historically, give us a background of what was Odisha like, because a lot has happened in the last 100 years. There was a larger sense, Odia as a separate culture. It developed and formed its firm identity. Then, of course, post-independence, there were different states, princely states sort of in Odisha. They had their independent relationships crisscrossing across the country, but people were living in abject poverty. Then, of course, I must ask you about when you say about small land holdings. In the 50s and 60s, there were movements across the country. जिसके अंदर it was ensured that land holdings के ऊपर cap लगे. But did that not have an impact? So bring us through over the last 10 decades. Where was Odisha? So that we can jump later on into what is happening in Odisha now. I want you to help our viewers understand where Odisha is coming from.
Right. So it's not much different from any other part of the country in that sense. Odisha was part of the Greater Bengal, and you have heard of the Great Bengal famine of the 1940s. So, and then we had a great famine in the 19th century as well. So, over the decades, and as you have rightly observed, it's a minerally rich state, but with very little enterprise. There's virtually no industry. And across the state, you have this skewed landholding. It's now much changed. And the Bhudan movement actually didn't have much impact in Odisha. You refer to the distribution of land, largely the Bhudan movement. There are a few other movements also. Yes, there were some Bhudanites in Odisha. They also, did a wonderful job of trying to distribute land and bring land to the landless. But unlike Bihar, unlike some other states, it wasn't as successful in Odisha. So this led to Odisha being constantly at the bottom of various development indicators and parameters. On top of it, coastal Odisha is very, very prone to cyclones and natural disasters. Almost every 2-3 years there is a massive cyclone. Okay, and also because coastal Odisha has many large rivers, you would have flooding every year, almost every year.
Okay.
So the flooding and the cyclone, that would keep the population of coastal Odisha constantly, in a state of flux. And whatever little development would happen, that would be wiped away.
Okay.
So, and then of course, people would be dependent on these post-disaster relief efforts. So there would not be a sustainable development program. And the economy also was very small in size. The minerals were not tapped into the way it is being done today. So all that led Odisha to be, along with Bihar, undivided Bihar, at the bottom of the pyramid. But things started changing. Things started, changing for the better in the 80s. That's the series of dam projects that were initiated, not only in Kalahandi but other parts of Odisha also. Odisha being the how do you say, like the poster boy of underdevelopment. So when this Indravati dam project started in Odisha, in Kalahandi, that led to a massive transformation, socially, economically, and at the same time, different parts of Odisha also started witnessing similar programs. And then, of course, political stability also. For the first few decades, you didn't have much political stability in Odisha. So that would also impact good governance.
Yeah, essentially. So you've given me a fair amount of insight into what were the impediments in Odisha's development. But where was politics? What was the government doing?
So that's what I said. So anyway, it was like the Congress party, the grand old party. Then there were many offshoots of the Congress party. But the government should be unstable. Would be unstable. Political stability came to Odisha only in the 1980s. So 1980, you had Mr. J.B. Patnaik as the chief minister. He continued until 1990. Then you had Biju Patnaik. for 5 years, then J.B. Patnaik again for the next 4-5 years. So, and then of course Naveen Patnaik for 24 years. So you had political stability in Odisha from 80 onwards. That led to many development projects. Many targeted interventions also started happening. For instance, Kalahandi is part of a cluster of districts called KBK.
Okay.
And in 1993, Prime Minister Narasimha Rao initiated a program called KBK Plan. He announced it from the ramparts of the Red Fort for accelerated development of these 8 districts. There were 3 districts, Kalahandi, Balangir and Koraput. Now it's a cluster of 8 districts. Supposedly at that point it was the poorest part of India. So this led to massive funding and then accelerated development happened. So I think these are the factors. But somehow I think Odisha also didn't have a voice in Delhi.
Yes,
that's also one major factor. Delhi politics was largely dominated by UP, Bihar, Bengal at that point of time, maybe even South, but not Odisha, not states like Odisha and Chhattisgarh, modern Chhattisgarh. So Odisha could not Odisha couldn't articulate its needs properly in Delhi. And of course, because it was not a very major political force, you didn't have adequate funding, you didn't have proper attention, and all this led to, the combination of all this led to a state where you had abject poverty. Right?
But in terms of important or politically, and we speak about this in 21st century, कैसे कौन से कोई मुख्य परिवार हैं जो उड़ीसा को अच्छे से डोमिनेट करते हों, जैसे पटनायक फैमिली इज अ केस इन पॉइंट, वर दे बिजनेस फैमिली और वर दे रिजन फ्रॉम social movement and became a politically...
Biju Babu became chief minister in the 60s, in the early 60s for the first time. Biju Patnaik is a legendary name in Odisha. And he was not the chief minister for a very long period. He became chief minister only twice, once for 2 years and once for 5 years after almost 27 years. For a brief while, he was minister in Delhi in the Janata Party experiment. Right? But despite that, he had a larger than life image. He still has. People in Odisha actually revere him because he was a daredevil. He was a genuine politician who was desperate to improve the lot of the Odias in Odisha. And he was an industrialist to start with, and he's one of the rare politicians who used his personal money for the development of the state, for his political work, and he would often go, bankrupt and would become a pauper doing that, and then he would recover. And so, I think the nation has not given Biju Babu his dues, but Janki Babu became chief minister for 15 years, almost 14 years, in 2 states. He was a scholar, very learned man, and also a very good administrator. But somehow his government, and he was in the Congress, somehow it got mired in corruption and many scandals. Then you had in 2000 Naveen Babu become the chief minister for the first time in alliance with BJD and BJP. And Naveen Babu is one of the longest serving chief ministers of the country.
And he carried a
24
huge
years.
legacy.
Yes, huge legacy. It helped that he is Biju Babu's son. So that Biju legacy is huge in Odisha. Huge.
Is it that Biju Babu...
People just adore Biju Babu.
So they adore him for what he did politically and socially for people?
Yes.
Or is his success also revered and looked up to because of his business or industrial success?
No, not because of his industrial business success. Well, partly could be. Because, very, very few Odias were enterprising in those days. Okay. Very few Odias had successful...
The Panda family also.
Panda family also.
Was business.
So very few Odias had successful industrial houses and all. So people looked up to him because he was a successful industrialist, he was a freedom fighter, and he was a great parliamentarian. He was a daredevil actually. He was a pilot. I don't know how many of the viewers would know that he has received the highest civilian award of Indonesia, because he assisted in the freedom movement of Indonesia and flew their freedom fighters from the clutches of the Dutch safely to India. And so these are all stories we grew up with. These are all, I mean, every household in Odisha would have a story of Biju Babu. These are stories every child in Odisha grows up with. So that legacy was there when Navin Babu became the chief minister. And he gave a stable government. For 5 terms, he was the chief minister. And I think lot of welfare programs, both from Delhi and from Odisha, actually impacted the lives of people. Prime Minister Vajpayee deserves special. Again, I will come back to Prime Minister Vajpayee's impact. One I mentioned was Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, the Golden Quadrilateral, the East-West North-South corridor. All these things brought an average villager closer to the market, closer to enterprise, and that led to the gradual development of Odisha. Some pockets were left behind; those pockets got influenced by LWE. So particularly districts like Kalahandi, western and southern part of Odisha, which became victims of neglect. They became the hotbed of Naxalism.
Okay.
So now after this targeted focus on development, on improving the law and order situation, now LWE in Odisha is on its last legs. But I think Odisha has been remarkably consistent in its development journey.
Tell us a bit about your political journey, because Naveen Babu was particularly important in your political
Absolutely. No, I definitely owe whatever I am today to Naveen Babu, because he is the man who gave me political positions. He sent me to the parliament. So I got introduced to him in 2012, and then I started working for him.
So this is soon after you got back from Harvard.
US, from the US, yes. And then I started working for him, and then in 2014 I was very active in his team. We did very well. BJD won 117 seats out of 147 assembly constituencies. So I guess he liked my work, and then I was made the special secretary for the state planning board, and then again 2019 also we did well, and then after he sent me to the parliament in 2020. But I left BJD in 2024, and then I joined BJP. So definitely I owe Naveen Babu a lot in actually helping build my political career. But things change and circumstances change. So because of many factors and many reasons, I had to quit BJD and join BJP. But I still have the highest regard for Naveen Babu. And it's a new government in Odisha. BJP has come to government on its own for the first time. Of course, there was an alliance with BJD from 2000 to 2009. So it's a new government, and Simon Majiji is the chief minister. So, it's gradually picking up.
Before we jump into your transition, give us a bit about some insights onto how Naveen ji as an administrator or politician. Tell us a bit about him. Because we understand कि legacy के साथ है उनके पास, और but he's also given Odisha stability.
Yeah, very much. Yes, he's an atypical politician. He's a man of very, very few words, unlike politicians. So politicians like to talk. Naveen Babu is a man of very few words. But he's a good administrator, and he likes to delegate. So he would not interfere in the day-to-day administration, day-to-day affairs. He would have a good team around him. He always likes to have a good team around him, and then he likes to delegate the routine administrative work to the team. He had cultivated this clean image. In the initial, years of him becoming the chief minister, he sacked many of his cabinet colleagues. Many senior officers were sacked. So any culpability or any finding of corruption or wrongdoing or lack of integrity would immediately invite his wrath. So that endeared him to people. Now, some say in the later years that changed.
What is your observation? You saw it from close.
I see. I would not like to comment on it because I came into the party much later, only in 2012. I mean, party of course I joined even later. I started working with Navin Babu much later, but he gives my experience working with him has been extremely cordial, and I must say a good learning experience also, because he's a learned man. He likes to have a good conversation, intellectual conversation, and I've never, not even once I think, I've never seen him lose his temper with me. So he gave absolute freedom. As long as you delivered, he was completely, okay with you working independently. So I have had a great experience working with Navin Babu.
Then what prompted the change? फिर बीजेडी से बीजेपी पे आना.
It's many political reasons, many reasons. I think I would not like to go into the details of it at this point. When I left the party, I did speak out some of the reasons for the change, why I left the party, but I did make it absolutely clear that that it has nothing to do with Navin Babu, and it has do with some other leaders in the party, and it was a political decision.
You've spoken about how your region per se was not getting its necessary due in the party also, through governance and some leaders who may not give you that space to perform. Is that the case? And do you think the reasons why you left the party also became the reasons for loss of the BJP in the elections?
I didn't say the first part of what you just articulated. I have never said that my region didn't get the due. It should have got from BJD. That's not something I've ever said. Yes, I did say that some local leaders and some state level leaders, they wanted to kill me politically. They wanted to destroy my political career. They were publicly saying that after the 2024 elections we will ensure that Sujit's political career is dead. And I saw that happening multiple times, and I realized that would continue because they were strong politically. They were people with money, with wealth, with political clout. They came from political families, and I was unwilling to accept that. And I knew that probably the top leadership of the party also was not in a position to take any corrective actions against them.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why I left the party. Why the party lost the 2024 election? A lot of ink has been spilled on this. Multiple factors. I think Navin Babu's popularity wasn't one of the factors. He is still popular. People still adore him.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I've spent time traveling in Odisha, and I found that people still love him. People say they wanted BJP, good that BJP is in power,
correct,
but there's nothing against Navin Patnaik ji.
But I guess the local leaders, I think people were looking for a change because they were so, how do I put it? I mean, impatient with the local leadership at the constituency level, arrogance, megalomaniac. Some leaders, started developing tendency of megalomania. They become so arrogant that it led to the downfall of the party.
That being said, was Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his leadership one of the factors that you got drawn towards the BJP?
Absolutely. Even when I was with BJD, I've always admired Prime Minister Modi. You can it's in the public domain. It's a matter for public record. I've always admired PM Modi, and even when I was with BJD, many of my tweets, many of my public writings have hailed him, to the extent that people in my own party, the former party, would say, how could you praise Modi, who is not in our party, is in a different party. But I would say he's doing great work for the country. I think he's the best Prime Minister India has ever had, and I've always maintained that. So yes, certainly, I'm glad that we have a Prime Minister like Modi, and definitely that must have played some role in my deciding, because see, I'm temperamentally I'm not at all pro Congress. From an early age, I have always been anti-Congress in my views,
Thinking and action also. Politically,
Because-
also BJP was the rival to Congress party.
Correct. And I think a lot of the ills of the country today, a lot of the challenges of the country today is because of the wrong policies, the wrongdoings of the Congress party.
That was also by design.
That was also by design, correct. So there was no question for me to look towards Congress when I decided to leave BJD. So BJP was a natural choice, and I'm very nationalist in my views, very nationalist in my approach. So BJP was a natural home to me.
That being said, sir, you've spent considerable time in the parliament. You've taken causes and picked causes which are not touched by many people. For instance, artificial intelligence. The AI summit became popular this time, but you've been advocating the adoption of AI on multiple fronts and platforms. How do you think artificial intelligence could be used to lift democracy, or could it be used by legislators and parliamentarians? Should AI be in some capacity somehow? Give some insights, please.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I've always been fascinated by technology, being a technocrat myself, technocrat and lawyer politician. I'm one of the few members of parliament who takes deep interest in technology and geopolitical issues. AI specifically, but technology broadly. I got fascinated by AI probably in the year 2022-23, and then I started exploring this new domain, and I realized how transformative, how revolutionary this technology could be, because for the first time in human history, machines have started behaving autonomously. Machines have started developing some kind of cognitive skills, which wasn't the case with any of the previous technology. That was very fascinating to me. And then I started exploring it, and then the impact of AI. Then I also started exploring on the legal aspects of AI, the regulatory aspect, the governance aspect, and in fact I wrote a book also on it.
Last year, I think February.
Yes, April. So the book is titled AI on Trial. It explores the legal liability and accountability of AI models, AI systems. I think AI is a huge force multiplier for a developing country like ours, where our challenges related to education, healthcare, disaster management, livelihood, agriculture, this can be mitigated or tackled using AI tools. Huge potential. We are late in the game.
Okay.
Let's admit it that we are late in the AI game. But I think that's okay, because the path which US and China and other countries have adopted may not be the path which is suited to us. Okay, they have developed these large language models, ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek by China, Copilot, Anthropic. Our challenges are different. Okay, I think at this point the fact that we don't have any large language model LLM emanating from India is not necessarily a shortcoming of our country. No, it's okay. We are focused rather on the application layer. We are focused on building SLMs to which are customized applications to solve our unique needs. So that's the path which we have followed, and I think I can give countless examples of the applications of AI in solving these challenges. From the parliamentarian's point of view, I can tell you that just 2 years ago, as a member of parliament, if I were to speak in any language other than Hindi or English on the floor of the house, I had to give a 24-hour notice period to the parliament secretariat, because they would organize translators and transcribers. Let's say I were to speak in Odia, then I have to give a 24-hour notice period. Today I can speak in any of the 11 Indian languages, okay, out of the 22 official languages, without giving any notice period, okay, and it gets translated real time, gets transcribed real time in the other 10 languages. Over a period of a year or so, we'll have the capability of all the 22 languages. Which other country in the world has this potential, you tell me, or this capability? So, and today I'm using AI for my research work, for digging out what answer was given by which minister in 1964 or 68, in like microsecond I'm getting all these research outputs.
In general, then, and let's switch to another topic beyond artificial. You've also advocated for the cause of Tibet,
Correct.
and perhaps you're one of the few vocal voices, apart from and not being in the government, who've been fiercely anti-China.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that stand?
See, I've been a disciple of His Holiness for a long time, and I started exploring the issue of Tibet in the early 2000s. And the more I read about it, the more I realized how unfair the world has been to Tibet. Unfair is a very, very mild word. China just walked into Tibet, invaded the country. It was an independent nation, and the whole world remained silent. And it was our closest neighbor. China was not our neighbor. There was this huge buffer state, Tibet. And today, if Tibet were an independent country, there would have been no India-China border. And after invading Tibet and after promising genuine autonomy, they went back on all their promises. Today, they are hell bent on destroying the Chinese culture, the Tibetan culture, language, identity, way of life, everything. It's such a rich culture. Today, 1 million Tibetan children are in so-called boarding schools. These are actually concentration camps. They are separated. Children as young as 4 years old are separated from their parents. And they are forcibly put into these boarding schools where they are not allowed to speak in Tibetan. They have to forcibly learn Mandarin. And when they come out of these boarding schools, they are Chinese. They start hating their own religion. They start hating their own language. Okay, so Tibet is a very emotive.
But do you think anything can be done about it at all? Because we're also seeing a world where China has become, almost a hegemonical power.
Yeah.
And
see the way China has. China today is the second largest economy in the world. It's military, second largest military in the world. Technology, it's a technology power. So, and the kind of surveillance state they have built in the entire Tibetan plateau. I honestly, I used to be very optimistic about Tibet's future until recently, but I don't know. Today my answer would be I don't know. Nothing remains forever. Nothing's permanent. Many empires have, in the world come and gone. If you read world history, where is the Roman Empire today? All roads lead to Rome. That's what we have learned, right? The sun never sets in the British Empire. That's what they call about the British Empire. Today, where is England is almost a museum today. So, I always give hope to my Tibetan brothers and sisters by saying that never lose hope. Keep the issue alive. Keep fighting.
And keep the culture alive.
Keep the culture alive. You are lucky to be born outside Tibet. Because if you were born inside Tibet today, you would have been either behind bars or you would have been, would have been unable to practice your religion culture. At least you are in a free country, whether it's in India or Germany or the US. Please keep the culture alive. Please tell the story to the next generation of Tibetans and please keep the fight on.
So is your stance against China solely focused or primarily on because of your opinion and your affection for Tibet, or is it more?
See, generally it's about the hegemonic behavior of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. It's China is a typical bully. So Tibet is a classic example of what they are doing. But they have fights with almost every neighbor of theirs. Today they claim the entire South China Sea. They claim, Taiwan. Okay, they have, forcibly occupied tens of thousands of square kilometers of Indian land. 38,000 square kilometers in Aksai Chin. They claim the entire Arunachal. So it's a typical, expansionist nation. Very, very belligerent attitude. And they can go to any extent. I understand the Chinese, mindset. They are very shrewd, very, very shrewd. They can go to any extent for furthering their, this expansionist attitude and for this kind of belligerent behavior. So that is something which I have against the Chinese nation or the CCP. Nothing against the Chinese people. I have some great friends who are Chinese. When I've studied both in the UK and the US, I worked in Switzerland in the US.
But are there people in China who think otherwise for how their government operates? Because it is sort of a state which everything is monitored.
The problem is, you never know, because a Chinese living inside China cannot speak freely. There's no free press. And within minutes he will be behind bars if he speaks against the CCP or against the government. So even the diaspora is very afraid to speak because they have relatives living in China, or they might think of.
Can you recollect any incidents without taking any names?
No, I know many instances of Chinese who are living abroad.
Reasonably open about it. We cannot because
the relatives are tortured. Many are Hong Kongers who left Hong Kong after the transfer of the city to the Chinese, and have openly criticized the CCP. The relatives have been put behind bars, maimed, tortured, killed. So
in that scenario, I think we spoke about Tibet being captured by China. Something similar is happening across the world also. हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि जिसका डंडा होता है उसी की ताकत उसी का वो चल रहा है. In a world where you are perhaps expecting कि एक modern democracy हो, where everybody lives sort of peacefully, or at least there's some decorum between global powers, it's almost evident that people who are reasonably powerful have good military prowess and economic backing. They go ahead and do whatever they want to, because we've seen the case of Venezuela, we've seen in the case of the US-Israel attack on Iran. Now, of course, Iran was suppressing a lot of freedom within its nation.
Right.
But what do you have to say about this impact also of this action?
I mean, that's what we see around the world. Might is right. India is probably the only exception. India has never misused its might. India at one point was at the peak of its power. India has never invaded any country.
That also for the longest time became an antithesis. Many people would complain that India is a rising power,
right,
at least for its own interest.
Correct.
It should strike.
Correct. So I think, as they say, you need to prepare for war. Not to fight any war, but for your own, self-defense. So, thankfully, now we have a government which is adopting the philosophy and the policy of nation first, and national self-interest, and it's always security of the nation that is paramount. But we were considered as a weak nation. Just imagine the number of terrorist activities or attacks that happened from 2004 to 2014. Just count. Every week I was living abroad in that period, and every week I would read about, I would watch with horror. Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Banaras, Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore. I mean, in every
across the country.
Every week, this anti-national elements would come and hit us, and it was so painful. So today, thankfully, our foreign policy is muscular. We have a prime minister who is admired across the globe, for whom it's always national interest first, and zero tolerance towards terrorism. And we will negotiate. We will talk to all the countries in the world, but no one can dictate us. Okay. Our interest will be on the table, and today we are at the table. We are not on the menu today.
What is your in general comment on geopolitics? You've of course spoken about how Prime Minister has had an important impact and risen India's image in the world. But what is your comment on prevalent issue, Iran per se?
See, the world is in turmoil. It's a new world order. There are multiple poles now. You have middle powers like India, Germany, Japan. So after the Cold War, for a very long time, the US was the dominant power. Then you had US and China. But I believe that India will become one of the most significant nations. It's already considered as a major power today. We have to focus on our economy. I think where we lack is that we don't have a robust economy.
Okay.
Though we are the fourth largest economy in the world, we are soon to become a $5 trillion economy, but that is almost a fifth of the Chinese economy. And thankfully we are growing at a very healthy pace, 7.5. We need to grow at this pace for the next 20 years.
Or achieve a double-digit growth.
Double-digit growth may happen, but to have a double-digit growth for 20 years is slightly improbable. So even if we grow at 7.5 for 20 years, I think that is very, very decent.
Towards our 2047 goal?
2047 goal, towards becoming a Bikasit Bharat. For the first time, we have a Prime Minister who has articulated a clear goal. That this is the deadline, this is the goal, start working towards it. And that has galvanized the entire nation. Today, countries and just imagine the number of visitors we have had in the last 1 year. Just imagine the impact of the AI summit. 91 and 88 countries participated, 3 international organizations. The New Delhi Declaration was signed by
unimaginable
without, with a common language, common vocabulary. It's no small feat. Imagine the kind of success with G20 under India's presidency was. Okay. So today when India speaks, countries have a lot of respect. India's soft power is at an all-time high. India deserves and is getting, admiration of the world, and rightfully so. So our demography, our democracy, our digitization success, it's all elements which the world is noticing and admiring. Coming back to specifically to the Iran issue, yes, I think it's a very difficult situation for us. The Prime Minister has appealed to, in fact, Government of India has appealed to both the parties to exercise restraint and calm. But this is likely to increase prices of essential items. From an Indian point of view, it's likely to increase the prices of fertilizers, fuel, food items. And then also there's a sizable Indian diaspora living in the Gulf and Middle East. So their safety also matters to us. India being an oil importing nation, 80% of which comes from that region, it's going to impact our economy also. So these are all factors which are relevant to us. And then of course, that has drawn in now Russia and China. So it will be very delicate balance for us, right? And Pakistan being what it is, and we have a hostile neighbor in China. So we also have to do our own scenario planning as to how this will pan out for us.
If I'm right, you're also part of the committee on Ministry of External Affairs.
Yes,
External Affairs Committee.
Yes, yeah. And also the IT committee.
Also the IT. Before I close this conversation, sir, and thank you very much for graciously taking out time to speak to me. Let's talk a bit about Arvind Kejriwal, because since you're also a lawyer, Arvind Kejriwal in Delhi, after being sort of clear of the charges, he, in his absolutely usual self, because I've been seeing and closely observing the time when he became active in politics.
Right.
In his usual way, he went out in front of the camera, shed what a spokesperson said, crocodile tears, and and saying, he got justice. What do you have to comment on that?
See, he's playing. He's an expert in playing to the gallery. He knows what to say, how to dramatize for the maximum impact. All those tears, all that was meant
for the audience,
for the public consumption. I still think he was corrupt, and his administration, there are a lot of scams in the administration. I think, and of course there's an appeal now. I mean, the government has decided to
go. This was a lower court.
This was a lower court. So it's not the end of the trial. I mean, it's the end of the trial in the lower court, the trial court. But now I think there is an appeal before the High Court. So it's still not a complete acquittal for Mr. Kejriwal. But people of Delhi have rejected him. Electorally, people of Delhi have, rejected him. So he should accept the mandate instead of, saying silly things like, let there be an election now. BJP can't win more than 10 seats. Why should there be an election now? We just had an election a year ago. You can't have it every year, right? Wait for your turn for 4 more years, and let the people of Delhi decide, okay, whether you are fit enough to govern them. But I honestly think that he does all this on purpose to get TRP, and that is the way he does politics. So instead of focusing on governance, instead of focusing on improving the plight of the citizens of Delhi, he knows how to create ruckus, how to create agitation. That's his style.
That being said, sir, congratulations again for the remarkable work that you've been doing.
Thank you, Arjun.
Your journey is inspiring, and I'm sure many people who will watch this video, if you've not learned enough from the video, read more about him, and he perhaps gives a good sort of inspiration that if you decide and put your heart into something, sky's the limit. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you,
I'm
Arjun.
sure
Thank you.
you made you make your parents proud. I'm sure there are people who take inspiration back in Odisha and across the world as well. Thank you very much for taking up the time.
Thank you, and thanks to all your viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you.